Hi, this session is called Knowing Your Client. Many of you will have had the experience of going to different clients, and you know how some you just think, this is easy, I get on with this person, this is exactly the sort of client I want. Others you find more difficult. What I'm going to show you today is a form of personality profiling, which will help you to read the type of client that you have and react according to their personality. I love this type of thing. I'm qualified in a number of psychometric profiling, and this is what we call the pop version or the popular version of one of, I think, the most powerful psychometrics there are, and that's the DISC profiling, Thomas International's DISC. You'll see that it's another little diagram that we're going to use here, and I'm going to ask you to draw a cross on the page, and as we go along, write in some of the comments and some of the thoughts that we have together. Knowing your client. How can we distinguish between different personalities? Well, it is ridiculous, isn't it, to think of 4 personality types when we know there are tens of thousands of personality types. But nevertheless, this is quite a help because we tend towards certain personality traits. And you learn to read those personality traits, and you learn also to react to that personality and react in the correct way, the way that is most likely to persuade and influence that person. So how are we going to do it? Well, you'll see on the cross we've got the horizontal and the vertical axis. And we're going to start with the horizontal axis. And on one side of the horizontal axis, you know how some people by nature are very slow-paced. They take their time, they speak slowly. You can see them thinking before they speak. They just like to make sure that everything is in a row before they commit themselves. At the other end of the scale, you get people who are very fast. They're fast speakers, they react quickly, they think quickly, they are just fast people. So on the one side, we're going to put slow-paced, and on the other side, we're going to put fast-paced. Okay, so that's the division there. And of course, there's lots of people somewhere in the middle. Now let's go on to the vertical axis. And here we're going to talk about something quite different. You know how some people, at the top this is, some people by nature are very people. And what we mean by that is they need other people. They get their energy from other people. They're always talking. They're always bouncing ideas off people. They're very much people. They love that interaction. And actually, they don't like very often being on their own. They get their energy from other people. And so we call them people-oriented. At the other end of the scale, at the bottom of the scale, we've got people who are, they still like people, that's not the issue here, but they don't have the same need for people. They can focus on their own, they can live in their own bubble. They're quite comfortable being on their own. In fact, in some cases, when they're working and concentrating, they prefer to be on their own, and they focus on the task. And so we call them task-oriented. So what we've got now is slow-paced, fast-paced, people-orientated, and task-orientated. Okay, so let's now go through the 4 personality types. And we'll start in the top left. Somebody who is people-orientated and slow-paced. Can you picture them? Can you think of people who are people-orientated? They like the interaction with people, but it's a slow interaction. They enjoy the chat. They like to chat. They like to have long conversations and enjoy the company of other people. We call them the amiable or the friend. The amiable or the friend. You know what they're like. They're lovely people, they're nice people. They're people who are interested in you. They're interested in personal things. They're interested in the family and all of those types of things. Let's move down to the bottom left. And let's go to the one that is slower paced and task orientated. Can you picture them? This is somebody who likes everything in order. They're very much, everything needs to be in detail. They want all the detail. They want all the information. They're very objective. And so we call them the analytical or the thinker. And you'll know people who are like that. Analysts, the word is there, there's a hint in the title, the analyst, the credit analyst in banking, the analytical people, the people in IT who are very much into the technical stuff, but not necessarily the people stuff, analyticals. Let's move across to the bottom right. And here we have people who many of you will come across as clients because they are very often quite high up in businesses. They're task-orientated and they're fast-paced. I want it and I want it now. And we call them the driver or the doer. They get things done. They can be impatient, they can be very demanding, but they get things done. And you get many clients like that. CEOs, very commonly. Entrepreneurial type of people are very often drivers. Or they might be a combination of drivers and the fourth one on the top right hand side. We go to the top right and you get people who are fast paced, but they're people orientated. They love to talk. They like to hear their own voice. They love to get involved in chats with anybody, and they're inclined to move off and short attention span and disappear off. We call them the expressive because they express themselves. Sometimes the actor, which I think is a good word for them as well. So what we've got now are 4 personality types. We've got the amiable, slower paced and people orientated. We've got the analytic, very detail orientated, very much the person who is logical and everything in its place. You move across to the right hand side and you've got the driver who wants it and wants it now, and then you move up to the expressive who is very much the talkative one. Perhaps normally, very often the salespeople will be up in that right hand corner. So now we've got 4 classic personalities. But of course, nobody is just one of these. We are actually all of us, all of them, but we prefer one to the other. So, what value is this to you? Well, it's very simple. There's huge value. If you're dealing with these different people, there are do's and there are don'ts. There are things that you should do and there's things that you should not do. With an amiable, for example, if you rush them and try and push them into buying, they won't like that. They will resist because they like time. They want to build the relationship first. They want to trust you, then they will buy from you. What about the analytic? Well, the analytic, because of their nature, they want to know all the details. So if you're very much the expressive personality and you don't like the detail, you like the big picture stuff, you've got to change your style for the analytic because they want to have the detail. They're the ones who will actually read your proposal document from beginning to end. Those of you who have never read small print in your life will not believe this because you just don't think it's important, but they do, and what you have to do is satisfy that demand. If they don't have all the detail, if they don't have that satisfaction, they won't buy from you. What about the driver? Well, the driver is not like the analytic. The driver wants it in bullet point form. The executive summary was made for the driver. That's the one that just summarizes in one page everything that's in the document. That's what he wants. He wants you to say to him, this is what we will do for you. This is the bottom line. This is the return you will get from our service. The expressive, they like new. They like new ideas. They like things that are interesting, that are upbeat. And so when you sell to an expressive, you want to make it sound exciting and new and something that will be of value to them as an individual. Gradually you get to build a picture of all these different personalities, and you might get a driver expressive, a bit of both. You might get an amiable analytic, a bit of both. And you can get combinations of these different personalities. But it is very useful to identify it and then have the do's and the don'ts of each one. As a relationship manager, when it comes to the decision making, one of the most important things you need to know is what do each of these personalities base their decision making on? Let's go back to the amiable first. What does the amiable base their decision making on? Well, the answer is, I told you a little earlier on, they like the relationship. And so they base their decisions on trust and relationship. So you've got to build that trust and relationship before they will make that final decision to go with you. The analytic, what do they base their decision making on? Well, they're very logical, therefore they will base their decision making on the facts and the figures, and you've got to provide that for them. What about the driver? What do they base their decision making on? Well, they want to know what it's going to achieve, and so they base their decision making on the results that your service will provide, or the bottom line. And the expressive can be quite tricky at times, but their basic decision making is very much kind of, yeah, let's go for it. In other words, there's an element of gut feel. So it's based on gut feel and emotion. Of course, everybody bases it on the facts and the prices and the service and all the different aspects. But these personalities will tend towards these decision making items that I've shown you. That is, trust and relationship for the amiable, facts and figures for the analytic, results or bottom line for the driver, and gut feel and emotion for the expressive. When we did the sales profile earlier on, we talked about the pipeline, and very often you have to pitch for business in the pipeline. In other words, you have to go and actually present perhaps to the board or to a couple of people within the company, and you go along and you do what you might call a formal presentation or a pitch. This is very, very useful for pitching because you pitch in a slightly different style to each of these people. Let's take the driver, for instance. If you know that the main decision maker at the pitch that you're doing is a driver, then you want to stand up and put the key points of your presentation up front in sharp, clear language, and don't spend too long presenting. If you're presenting to the amiable, perhaps the best way, and very often with the amiable it's just the one person, the much better to sit down in an informal atmosphere, chat to them about it, take them through a document, but not really spending a lot of time on the detail of that, much more talking about the ongoing relationship, the ongoing support that you will give them. If you are pitching to an analytic, don't spend too long. I know they like the detail, but reassure them that you're giving them a document with all the details, or that you're sending all those details on. They will want to know every single aspect of the proposal you're putting to them. And finally, with the expressive, if you're pitching to an expressive and you know the decision maker is an expressive, then keep it upbeat. Make it interesting, make it fast, and make it short, because that's what they would like. So there's going to be another session on pitching, and that's how do you pitch, and it's a combination of some of the other seminars that we've been talking about. But if you get the chance to have a look at that one, you'll find that using these personality types combined with your pitching skills will be extremely useful. Look forward to seeing you again at another of our seminars. Thank you.